I'm Luke from the podcast that must not be named.
Hi, I am Melissa from the podcast that must not be named.
And we are talking about Harry Potter, chapter number 36 of The Goblet of Fire, The Parting of the Ways. This chapter was 24 pages long, and that is 3.7% of the book. Benj, it's all yours.
A disgusted Dumbledore ties up Barty Jr., sends the real Moody to the hospital wing, and guides Harry to his office where Sirius is waiting for them. He tells the adults what happened after he touched the cup with Cedric. As he tells them about what happened when his and Voldemort's wands connected, Dumbledore explains that Priori Incantatem had occurred, and that they could not battle each other because each of them shared a wand core from the same phoenix, Fawkes. As Harry tells of the shadows appearing from Voldemort's wand, Fawkes heals the wounds on Harry's leg with his tears. When he tells of Voldemort using his blood to heal himself, Dumbledore seems almost pleased. Dumbledore guides Harry to the hospital wing where he finds the Weasleys waiting for him, but Dumbledore instructs them not to question Harry tonight. Harry takes part of a potion for dreamless sleep only to be shocked awake by loud voices in the hall of Professor McGonagall and Cornelius Fudge. She's furious with him for allowing a Dementor who he brought with him to attack Barty Jr. and perform the Dementor's kiss, sucking his soul away. Dumbledore enters and learns of Fudge's buffoonery, relaying to him what he learned from Barty Jr., but Fudge refuses to listen and refuses to follow his recommendations of dismissing the Dementors and recalling the Giants. Dumbledore advises him that if he doesn't want to ally with him in the fight, that they must part ways. Fudge is incensed by Dumbledore's accusations of being a coward. Snape shows his dark mark, trying to prove to the Minister of Voldemort's return. Fudge deposits Harry's winnings on the table and storms out of the room, not listening to anyone. Dumbledore starts to rally his troops, asking Molly for her and Mr. Weasley's help. He has Sirius show himself and orders him and Snape to bury their hatred. He tells Sirius to round up their old friends, including Lupin, and tells Snape he knows what he needs to do. Both leave to do their assignments. Harry offers Mrs. Weasley his winnings, but she refuses and gives him a big hug, which brings him to almost tears. Harry finishes his potion and quickly drifts off to sleep.
So, Melissa, I have a very important question for you.
Yes.
Did you see any new characters introduced in this chapter?
No.
Did you see any new locations introduced to this chapter?
No.
Did you find any magicabulary?
No.
Me either. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, but I'm a little disappointed.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm not disappointed. I'm just a little disappointed. We have had very few where it was 0 for 3 on those.
I mean, in their defense, we're on page 692, and she's had something new in every chapter. I'm okay.
I'm okay with it.
No, like, I'm actually okay. Luke's just...
I'm just kind of surprised. Like, there's usually like an offhand mention of Willy Wonkers. Like, that's not a character ever.
Bilious Willy.
Bilious Wonka, yeah. We do have an illustration, though.
We do, and this might be my favorite.
Really? Okay, tell us about it.
It's the Dark Mark.
It is the Dark Mark.
Like the actual, and it's, I don't know what it's called, but there's so much negative space in the picture. There's very little shading. It's just an outline. It's almost like a clip art version of the Dark Mark, and I super love it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an awesome tattoo.
It's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's, like you said, it's just outlining. There's very little to it, and it gets right to the point.
It's awesome. I like it.
I will say I have seen a lot of like other like actual fan art dark marks like on people's arms and things. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really cool things you can do. This is a pretty cool, simple, I like your description of it looking like clip art. And I don't mean that like demeaningly. It just kind of, it's right to the point.
I do a lot of presentations in my job, lots and lots of presentations. And my partner and I, she tends to like to cutesy things up, and I'm more of a let's pick a good background color and make a nice font. And she like does themes, and if we're doing a snow theme, then there's going to be a snowman in every. I want to do a presentation where it's like this dark mark, right? Can I do a Death Eater presentation in my job and pull this off with like this being my main? This is going to be my challenge for myself in the next school year. Dark mark presentation.
So by the end of book 5, you need to report back. Did you work a dark mark into your real world job presentation schedule?
I am very much going to try. I'm going to need a topic.
So this is another one of those information download chapters. A lot of cool things going on, I think. We both have a lot of notes. Melissa, go ahead and just jump right into your first thought here.
So this is like Dumbledore and Sirius hanging out in Dumbledore's office, hearing Harry's version of events, right? And early on, Sirius is like, no, he's not going to talk about it. He just, like, you got to give him a minute, right? Let him. And Dumbledore's like, no. And he says something that is very profound. And it's, numbing the pain for a while will make it worse when you finally feel it. And I think that is something that, and I was going to say kids, but really I think people don't realize. People try so hard not to feel bad, right? Like, if something terrible happens or if they're very like, they try so hard to ignore the feeling or push it down. And yet when it comes out, whether you've self-medicated or just ignored, however it comes out so much worse than if you had just owned that emotion in the moment, but you're so worried about feeling bad that you won't let yourself feel bad. So when you finally do feel bad, it's a million times worse. One, because you're so far removed from the event that made you mad, and it's built up. Like that to me it's not one of those quoting Dumbledore isms that you can, put on vinyl and slap on a wall, but maybe it should be.
I think it very well could be. I think it's one of the more practical pieces and not such a philosophical thing. Like, you can always relate to the things that he's saying. The Dumbledore-isms, the Dumbledorian quotes, and they're all valid and wonderful. But something like this is really one of the more practical, usable, everyday things. Like you were saying, self-medicating not to feel something. Maybe drinking, smoking, whatever it is, that or anything else that just numbs things to make you not feel something. Then your emotional capacity to deal with things when they truly come up is downgraded a bit because you need to work that muscle. It's a muscle. You need to test it out. I'm no expert in this at all, but I've been a human for a while. And I do have that one feeling. And if I don't actively, train it and am aware of it, then yeah, I've definitely been on the side of ignoring things and seeing how it only adds to, guess what, even if you put it off, then there's going to be enough things that you put off, they're going to catch up to you. And you can call it karma, you can call it whatever you want. Those emotions are going to be there, and
it's not going to be pretty,
and it's going to be worse for you in the long run.
And it doesn't even have to be something you've used, like abused substance for. It can just be like physically blocking it out, right? Mm-hmm. Compartmentalizing and not ever going back to take that time. It's just not healthy, man.
Absolutely.
Mental health is so important.
I know on a lot of our shows I've used the line, honesty is the only policy, but it really has to start with yourself, So
alrighty. Do you have any other thoughts? Let's do this in chunks. So okay. This is the Dumbledore's office chunk. Any other thoughts about that section?
Dumbledore's office chunk. Let's go. Whenever Harry is starting to tell his tale, there's a line where it says, once or twice Sirius made a noise as though to say something, his hand still tight on Harry's shoulder, but Dumbledore raised his hand to stop him. And Harry was glad of this because it was easier to keep going now he had started. It was even a relief. He felt almost as though something poisonous were being extracted from him. It was costing him every bit of determination he had to keep talking, yet he sensed that once he had finished, he would feel better. And that's Harry is being allowed to exercise that muscle, that emotional muscle. And it's hard. It is hard. But even Harry in this one paragraph is like, I appreciate what you're doing, Sirius, but it's probably better to just keep going and get it out because it feels like there's a poison being removed from him. And that's kind of what it is. He needs to take this chance to detox from this awful information that he has and the awful experience that he just went through. He needs somebody to be there with him and putting it off, he's going to downplay it in the future, and then it can only unravel into other less healthy things, I think. So I really like that Sirius is like trying to, in his experience, he's trying to like help him out by protecting Harry, right? That's his nature. He wants to protect Harry here. And he thinks, oh, I need to protect him from experiencing this, right? Like maybe this isn't the right time right now, but Dumbledore gets it. And Harry feels that as he's going on. And so just really short paragraph that follows up the part you brought up, I think, quite nicely.
Yeah, I do. I think it just, what is it, the saying that if you share your happiness, it doubles, but if you share your sorrow, you cut it in half. Just by being able to talk about this terrible thing, he's able to share that pain with Sirius and Dumbledore, and that alone makes it easier to live with.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. Also in Dumbledore's office chunk, we have confirmation that Harry's wand core has come from Fawkes the Phoenix. We knew it came from a phoenix, but this was the confirmation that it was indeed from Fawkes.
And this is the first time we heard that?
Yes.
Man, do I feel like I probably spoiled that accidentally.
I think we've talked about it. That's what so maybe we were good about it, but this is specifically where it comes in. I didn't go and back check that it hasn't been mentioned, but the fact that he says it as this very phoenix right here,
yeah, this guy. Great. All right, so then we get to the hospital wing chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any pre-fudge?
I do.
Comment?
I have pre-fudge. This is fudge batter.
So bad.
I really like, again, Dumbledore is quite good in this chapter, I think. And right when they get there, they walk in the door and they see Mrs. Weasley, and she lets out a kind of muffled scream. Harry, oh Harry! She started to hurry toward him, but Dumbledore moved between them. Instantly, just takes control of the situation. He says, Molly, he said, holding up a hand, please listen to me for a moment. Harry has been through a terrible ordeal tonight. He has just had to relive it for me. What he needs now is sleep and peace and quiet. If you would all like to stay with him, he added, looking around at Ron, Hermione, and Bill too, you may do so. But I do not want you questioning him until he is ready to answer, and certainly not this evening. Just look at the emotional... I know that's a lot of what's going on here is... We're experiencing Dumbledore's knowledge base of how to handle this type of situation. And just A+ effort right here he's already done the thing that Harry needed. And they all want to, they all want to be there for him. But right now it would be too much. And maybe it's selfish of Dumbledore to put himself in that position and not allow them the opportunity. But I think it's so well done in a private setting like he was able to create with Sirius and Harry, for Dumbledore to ask those questions and get it out of Harry without being interrupted. This many people, he's probably going to have questions, and that's going to be disrupting. And at least with the smaller group, it could be a little bit more productive for Harry.
Two thoughts. One, I think if any other person in the story had tried to do that with Harry and had heard the story and then said, okay, but you can't hear it right now because he can't relive it again, there would be nobody would listen. Dumbledore is the only person with enough authority and enough respect that everybody doesn't question it. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're not going to bother him if you say so. I got it. We're there. So I think Dumbledore is the only one who could have pulled that off. That's my first thought.
What about McGonagall? I think if Dumbledore wasn't here for some reason and McGonagall was the one because I could see her having the emotional IQ, the EQ to do similar to what Dumbledore did here.
I don't think she has enough political clout to pull that off. I think as a teacher, they respect her, but I don't know if they respect her as a leader of free men, mm-hmm. if you will.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
It would be the difference between, let's see if I can pull a Lord of the Rings reference, right? It would be the difference between
Faramir and Boromir.
No. I'm not taking that silly quiz again. How do I want to say this? Okay, and I'm forgetting his name, and so I'm feeling very bad about myself. The King of Rohan.
Theoden.
It's the difference between Theoden saying, he told me, no one else needs to hear it, and Aragorn saying, he's told it to me, no one else needs to hear it. Theoden would have Gandalf going, well, I don't know, and Aragorn going, well, I don't know. But if Aragorn says it, he just has more
Clout.
more natural power. Dumbledore just has more natural power. It's not that McGonagall isn't good at what she does. It's not that she couldn't pull it off. It has nothing to do with her, and it has to do with everybody else's perception of her.
Sure.
That's what I think.
That's fair.
That's my first thought.
That's fair.
My second thought is, if Harry had to relive it to a larger group of people, like he only did it once, and it was Dumbledore and Sirius and Ron and Hermione and Molly and Minerva and all of them. Harry had a hard enough time continuing on when Sirius had facial reactions. Now imagine him having to do that watching Hermione, watching Molly, watching Ron. Those are the three that I think would get him, right? Like, I can't cause you this pain that your face is showing me you are in right now.
Yep, absolutely. And again, looking back at with it being just the three of them, right? Sirius, Harry knows that Sirius has gone through some really disturbing things in his life. You know, he knows that Azkaban must have been horrible. So I think he understands just by the nature of his relationship with Sirius that, yeah, he can take it, and it's going to be hard on him, but he's not going to dwell on it. He's, you know, like, their relationship is different, and Harry's not afraid of Sirius being hurt because Sirius is so tough, but also in it just like a fatherly figure kind of way. So he knows he can take it, as opposed to, like you were saying, he wouldn't want to ever throw extra sorrow into those three characters that you mentioned, you know, Molly or Hermione or Ron's life, when they don't know. And until you've been in anything like that, like he'll try to shelter them, and that's not going to be healthy for him.
Not at all. All right. Any other pre-fudge thoughts?
I think, out of pre-fudge thoughts until we get into questions and other things.
All right. So here we go. Fudge, man. Like, you want to like the person in charge of your political climate. You really, really want to. So I'm going to start off by asking, I know it's not really question time, but I have as I have in the last few chapters, I have a what if scenario for you. Fudge really believes, or really wants to believe, and in this case, it ends up having the same effect, that Barty Jr. was a lunatic murderer working alone. Like, that's the story he is. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, right?
He'll hang his bowler hat on that.
Yes. What information does he have that aligns with this version? So my other way of asking is, like, are there enough facts that he has heard that support this version of events? And I know there's things that we know that he doesn't, right? He hasn't heard Harry's story. He's definitely missing chunks, but has he heard enough information to be able to, for lack of a better term, back himself up?
At this point, I think he's making a reasonable statement from his messed up perspective. I don't agree with the points that he's making, but I agree that from where he's coming from, they could make sense. And the thing that really steps out to me is the line where it says he cannot give evidence about why he killed those people. Why he killed them? Well, that's no mystery, is it? Blustered Fudge. He was a raving lunatic. From what Minerva and Severus have told me, he seems to have thought he was doing it all on you-know-who's instructions. So, like, obviously he's gotten some bits of the story, and even Dumbledore later on references, you know, obviously, you know, as Minerva and Severus have doubtless told you, we heard Barty Crouch confess. Under the influence of Veritaserum, he told us how he was smuggled out of Azkaban, and how Voldemort, learning of his continued existence from Bertha Jorkins, went to free him and his father from his father and use him to capture Harry Potter. The plan worked. I tell you, Crouch has helped Voldemort return. So I think he, being Fudge, has gained enough information. If I'm Fudge and I fundamentally think there's no chance that Voldemort could be back at all, and this person who has admitted to being this potentially incredibly dangerous person and has murdered people that we know of, I think it's completely reasonable for him, Fudge, to say, well, he's just doing this because he's insane. Like, there's no chance Voldemort is back. That's just not an option. And he's just he needs to go to the loony bin, and he's a danger to society. So, like with that information alone, I think it's reasonable, again, from his wrong perspective, to have the opinion that he does. Does that seem okay to you, or?
Yes, I just wasn't sure how many leaps of faith he was making, and I wanted to know if it was feasible, the leaps he was making, or if he was making just way out there stretches, because he is stretching. We know that he is ignoring facts that are placed right in front of him. I'm just wondering if there was enough facts that he was choosing to believe. I choose to believe this, and what you're saying is incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just the one thing that he's choosing to believe, and that is there's no way Voldemort could be back. It's just not possible. It's not going to happen. We fixed that problem. It's gone. So that's the fundamental belief that he has. The evidence of literally seeing Barty Crouch Jr. here makes parts of the rest of the story make sense well enough, and it's just crazy enough that no one's going to survive that and be sane. So of course he's probably telling himself that he's doing this for Voldemort. Of course, that makes sense, but he's insane, because fundamentally Voldemort's not a thing anymore in Fudge's,
right,
in his opinion, his wrong opinion. I gotta really qualify that one.
Remember?
Right. Oh.
Okay. All right. So going along with that, sort of here's my next big what if Fudge thing.
What if Fudge?
Voldy, don't hurt me. Okay. So Fudge then says, it seems to me that you are all determined to start a panic that will destabilize everything we have worked for these last 13 years. Why would Dumbledore and Harry do that? What motive does Fudge think that those two have that they want to destabilize the whole, the magical community?
Well, I mean, I guess there's been some stories about Harry in the public eye that we'll get to, that would lead people to believe maybe he's incredibly ambitious and just wants all of the attention possible. So how do you do that? You create a destabilized system that he can then come in and be the savior again, right? That's a pretty big stretch. We know Harry's not doing that, but in the public eye, maybe. I mean, and Dumbledore's clearly backing Harry in these quote unquote ludicrous stories that he's been telling, and he's also a Parselmouth, and he's also, been having these pains that act like an alarm bell. I've never heard of a curse that would act as an alarm bell. Well, you don't seem very bright. But
right.
I agree. It's dumb. His thought is dumb. But I can see someone who's so insecure in their own position being afraid of anything that would make him look bad, right? If there's any destabilization, that just looks on him, which we'll get to in a little bit too, where Dumbledore fundamentally calls him out on that. And it's anything that's not good for the country, which is even this breach of information, true or not, looks bad on Fudge.
Because it's all about how Fudge looks and not about
it's all about public image, in Fudge's opinion.
This is why I would make a terrible politician.
I would too. I would just be so right all the time and people don't want to hear it.
You would be okay. All right. Any other Fudge bashing?
Oh, sure. Definitely. Easy. I don't think he's going to get the MVP. Just guessing.
Spoiler.
Whenever Harry starts naming, he says, look, I saw Voldemort come back. Harry shouted. He tried to get out of bed, but Mrs. Weasley forced him back. That's funny. I saw the Death Eaters. I can give you their names. Lucius Malfoy. Snape made a sudden movement, but as Harry looked at him, Snape's eyes flew back to Fudge. Malfoy was cleared, said Fudge, visibly affronted. A very old family. Donations to excellent causes. And then Harry continues on with, like McNair. He was also cleared, now working for the Ministry. And then he goes through the list of Avery, Knott, Crabbe, and Goyle. You're merely repeating the names of those who were acquitted of being Death Eaters 13 years ago. Well, guess what? They were Death Eaters. You were just wrong. You let them go for dumb reasons. Excellent donations to great causes. Get out of here, you corrupt fool. Just because it's good for you fiscally to have Lucius Malfoy around doesn't mean it's good for you as a human or ethically or morally.
business ethics.
What is business ethics? So I liked that Harry, just called him out. He just said it. And yeah, Fudge is wrong again.
Oh, that's 0 for 3. Anything else?
Albus's steps to continue stabilizing the country, I think, are pretty solid choices. Do you have any thoughts on those?
Let's get rid of the Dementors. Check.
Good idea.
Let's go make friends with giants.
Good idea.
Check.
At minimum, mollify that situation. You don't have to become best friends, but an olive branch. Like, hey, let's just not fight. Like, go ahead and be proactive on reaching out.
And it's not because we need you on our side. It's because we need you on not their side.
On not their side. We just want you to stay out of it.
And that would be good. That's a win.
Yeah. Stay out of it, France. We're better off without you on this one. That's I guess a Civil War reference. I don't mean that one way or the other. But
okay.
My last Fudge bash, I guess, is I like that after Albus kind of says those things, he says, take the steps I have suggested, and you'll be remembered in office or out as one of the bravest and greatest ministers of magic we have ever known. Fail to act, and history will remember you as the man who stepped aside and allowed Voldemort a second chance to destroy the world we have tried to rebuild. I know you'd kind of already touched on that, and I think it's exactly right. I mean, do these things. It's hard. Doing the right thing is not always the easy thing. It's very rarely the easy thing. You're doing the easy thing by ignoring it. And Albus is calling him out on that. And he also follows it up with, if your determination to shut your eyes will carry you as far as this, Cornelius, we have reached a titular, the parting of the ways. You must act as you see fit, and I shall act as I see fit. Now see here, Dumbledore. No.
And it's so very I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do depending on what you do.
Pretty much.
You can do whatever it is you want to do. I can't stop you. But if you choose this, here's what I will do. And if you choose that, here's what I will do. Decide where you want me.
Yeah. But if you're going to work against me, the only one against whom I intend to work, said Dumbledore, is Lord Voldemort. And if you are against him, then we remain on the same side, Cornelius. It's so is so good. He's exactly right. Hey, guess what? I only have one enemy here. Just the one. He's back. That's the issue. You're fighting that. It's true. Sorry, you're wrong. I don't know what else to say.
Right. I feel bad for you that your brain has not comprehended this.
I know it's a lot. Let's talk tomorrow. Sleep on it.
Right. Maybe don't pull the Dementors in today.
Yeah. So go ahead and I think we can move ahead from.
I just want to yell at him. Can I just take a stick and beat Fudge over the head? And I don't do violence. I'm the least violent of your siblings, most likely, but I'm definitely up there in the least violent category.
You are in the running.
Probably the top 2.
Yeah.
Anyway. I don't know who else would be there with me. It's me and
I think it's you, and then second place, whoever that is.
Pretty much. Beat him over the head with a stick, that Fudge guy. Because, Minerva said it best, right? He felt like he was personally in danger and felt he had to bring, and that, I just hate that.
I think it was Snape that said that, actually.
Oh, maybe I think it was Minerva, because she was the one guarding Barty Crouch.
Right. Snape was in there as well. I think I highlighted that. I didn't highlight it, but I think Snape's the one that actually says that. And he says, it's earlier in this section.
Oh, yeah, it is. When we told Mr. Fudge that we had caught the Death Eater responsible for tonight's events, said Snape in a low voice. He seemed to feel his personal safety was in question.
I feel like he's casting a little shade with that one, right?
And only, in a way, only Snape can shade.
And I appreciate Snape shade when it's done to other people, especially adults.
Here, but in general, Snape, this is a chapter where he just makes a little uptick on the,
I'll give him a point back. For this one.
2. I have another spot in this chapter. But this right here, he seemed to feel his personal safety was in question.
It's like he's questioning him as a man. He's just like, you total coward.
Yeah, and then he goes on. He insisted on summoning a Dementor to accompany him into the castle. He brought it up to the office with Barty Crouch. And then McGonagall jumps in. I told him you would not agree, Dumbledore. She fumed. I told him you would never allow Dementors to set foot inside the castle. My dear woman, roared Fudge. This is my favorite line. As Minister of Magic, it is my decision whether I wish to bring protection with me when interviewing a possibly dangerous... And then McGonagall cuts him off. Like, need protection. McGonagall sat in there alone with him and was fine, but you need protection?
Yeah.
She still can be there. She's got you, man.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine, bud.
Okay, my second point for Snape. Are you ready?
Yes.
When he, in the midst of the argument, goes up to Fudge and shows him the dark mark. That shows a lot of courage in that moment to be able to out yourself, if you will, for the sake of the greater good, right? To try and really sell the story Dumbledore is trying to shove down Cornelius's throat because, I'm sure it's just a story. At least that's what Fudge thinks. But Snape has physical proof. Mm-hmm. I just think Snape gets a little point back for that one, too.
I agree with that. I was wrapping that up in my 1 point back for him.
I'm just saying, he's in the hole like 250 points. But he's got 2 back.
I'll give him 2 back. I'm okay with that.
Okay, can we let Fudge leave?
Then Fudge leaves.
Yay! And somehow McGonagall gets sent out, Madame Pomfrey gets sent out, and then we have the other reveal, the mini reveal, the reveal that, quite frankly, has been coming for books now. That's no surprise at all. Sirius reveals himself. Mm-hmm. I love that moment.
To Molly and to, that was a good moment, and to Snape.
Yeah, and there's 2 great standouts, and it's Molly's reaction, and Ron just goes, "Mom, shut up!"
Shut up, Mom.
Just shut up, right?
It's like that's old. That's old news.
We did that a whole book ago. Let it go, right?
Yeah.
But Dumbledore asking Snape and Sirius to trust each other. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, but we've also seen how there is a bigger thing at play here. It's not their childish animosity towards each other. They have to work together. They're on the same side.
Yeah, although I do like Dumbledore's line of, "I will settle in the short term for a lack of open hostility."
Exactly, and that's what they can offer.
Yeah.
That was so perfect.
I can promise not to hate you out loud.
I will not hate you out loud to the detriment of those around us.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what really sells it as being, okay, he's not asking too much.
I just have to hate you silently. Okay.
I'll just hate you to myself.
It's like when your mom makes you hug your little brother after you've been fighting. Hug it out. Be friends. Bleh.
Yeah.
And us, we always got along. But
we always get along. That's true.
All right. And speaking of hugging.
Speaking of hugs, well, look at that segue.
Oh, I'm so good. Harry needs more human contact in his life.
Really, really does.
I mean, the hug got me right in the feels, right? And I was really like, what do I want to talk about with this? Because there's so much in that moment. The idea that sometimes you just need a hug from your mom and you don't have a mom, and yet you've kind of been adopted by a mom. And then it got me to realize how much I hug my kids, probably to their annoyance, right? Just now, as we were talking 5 minutes ago, my kids all came over and gave me hugs and gave me kisses and said goodnight. I had to mute my microphone while you were talking because they were all right here, because that's what we do. And when I go upstairs...
That's always what's happening when I'm rambling. She's just hugging her kids. So just know that in future.
Yeah, pretty much. Or there's a kid making dinosaur noises.
Hey, Luke, we have a Luke ramble button that she just pushes. It's called the mute button.
And he knows that if it goes on mute, he's got to keep talking for a while because there's stuff going on here. Anyway, and I'll go upstairs and give him another hug, and I'll go bother the teenager and make her give me a hug, or at least touch her shoulder. There's just so much contact that I have with my kids. And not that we were very huggy as a family growing up, but there was always contact. Harry doesn't have that. And there's something so powerful in human touch. Even prematurely born infants who have a failure to thrive, one of the best things you can do is skin to skin contact, right?
Have you read about rhesus monkeys? If you know that psychological study, it's a classic.
Yes.
Contact comfort is a thing.
Yeah. And Harry needs more. And I'm so thankful that Weasley exists.
Yes, absolutely. He gets high fives, I guess, from like the Quidditch team. It's different. I know. Those still have a place too, though.
Or like Sirius putting his hand on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of things are so important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm glad that they were in this chapter because this is a chapter where Harry needs that more than anywhere else. And I don't think typically when we have Harry, living through some sort of deadly thing at the end of a book, typically there's not parent figures there. It's usually teacher figures.
Right.
But this time we have both Sirius and Molly to be able to be those parents, to give the hand on the shoulder and the hug and the shoulder to cry on. And I think that's a turning point for him too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually was just thinking and this is a bit of a tangent, but and I'm not wishing this to be the case, but say there never was a Sirius Black father figure. I really think you could put Arthur Weasley in a similar position here where it's just those three. It's Harry, Arthur, and Albus. I think you'd have a pretty similar reaction on Arthur's point that Sirius did, and it wouldn't feel unnatural at all. I think it would feel unnatural if Molly was in there because I think she would have had a harder time not mothering and jumping in and stepping in.
Yep.
With Albus, it's a little bit different, I know, but I think Arthur would have been able to keep it reserved the way Sirius did and still give the support that he was able to. So I think in this one instance, it would have been a fair mix in if somehow Sirius was never a character.
Like if you go all the way back to the second chapter in that terrible chapter called The Scar, and where Harry does nothing but think, and he's writing a letter and he's trying to choose who to write the letter to. Mm-hmm. If he had chosen Arthur,
I think he could have. Well, he hadn't really met him at that point, really. Or which that was in this book, though, wasn't it? Sorry, I was thinking book 2. Yeah, sorry.
That's book. So, I mean, he could have written to Arthur. He could have asked those questions. He wouldn't have because it's still Ron's dad. But if he had made that leap,
and he allowed himself to feel that way, it wouldn't have been looked upon as weird by anybody.
No. So. And all the places Sirius filled of the conversation, at least through letters, could have been done by Arthur.
Yeah, I think so. So
I mean, maybe not live in a cave, but
yeah, I don't think he needs to live in a cave unless he's getting that's sleeping on the couch for Arthur.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Melissa, what are our 5 burning questions?
All right, question 1. What spells would your wand regurgitate if it were forced to do so?
Something that would look like a cleaning up of a 5-year-old boy's room. That's probably what the last 10 would be. That mixed in every other one with folding laundry spells.
Oh my god, folding laundry was going to be my answer.
That would be, I need to change, that's all mine would be.
Folding laundry.
Picking up Legos.
Nah, I don't have to do that.
Just the ones that I stepped on. That's all I mean.
Mine would be folding laundry and flying dishes to the sink. I wouldn't actually do the dishes, but I would just do some sort of wand wavy thing and everything, all the stuff would fly to the kitchen sink. It doesn't tend to make it there. I would do that. Those would probably be my 2 big ones. Laundry. And then maybe food. Something to do with food. Because I hate cooking. I'm just not very good at it. And dinner tonight was cereal because I just didn't want to eat anything. And my husband took care of the kids, which he normally does because he does food well. So I was like, I'm just going to eat a bowl of cereal.
I wonder how well you can use magic with computers. Could I use it to edit our episodes so I don't have to do it?
I can't even count. I have 30 presentations that I have to finish before school starts. So, which I can't use the dark mark in because I'm not giving them there for teachers to do.
Just start watermarking them secretly in the corners. They'll never know.
Maybe on the 5th grade level ones. Anyway, right around Halloween.
Yeah,
because they're one for every week for the whole school year. So I have to do the first quarter stuff. Anyway, it's a lot. If it could get those done for me, here are all my thoughts, just make it happen. That would be cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Question 2. What might Fudge want to discuss with Dumbledore about the running of the school?
Oh, that doesn't sound good, does it? I mean, if he we don't know what kind of power the Ministry has over the school. I mean, Fudge says not
curriculum oversight.
Right. I guess we might be saying careful what you ask for. But like Fudge fundamentally, he says, I've always let you have kind of a free reign around here. It sounds like maybe that might not, for whatever Fudge can do, might not be the case. And
it's a bit ultimatum-y, isn't it?
It's
a bit ultimatum-y, like quite the ultimatum.
So I guess hopefully it just goes away. Hopefully they talk tomorrow and Fudge just slept on it and he just comes around.
Okay, good. We'll hope that.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Question 3. This is not so much of a question so much as like a but I have to ask it. So what's up with the gleam of something like triumph in Dumbledore's eyes?
This I'll just go ahead and say the gap between book 4 and 5, this was a hotly debated item. What could this possibly be? So it's a really good question. And there are theories abound. Go back if you can get into like darkmark.net archives and look at, the 2005-ish threads. I'm just going to go and recommend look at those about a gleam of something like triumph. And a lot of times people just call it the gleam of triumph. But it's more accurately a gleam of something like triumph. So
you're doing a really good job of not answering my question, by the way.
I don't know how to answer this question. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't either. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've always been confused by it.
Oh, really?
Not even in we're trying to be spoiler free. Like, okay, fourth wall here, guys. A lot of the time we pretend like we don't know, but we know because we've read the series 100 times, right? Like,
you're breaking the system.
We're there for the people who haven't read it, but like a lot of you have, and you get it. You're with us, like you've bought in, because if you've made it to this episode, I mean, you've invested like 100 and something hours of your time with us, so you know. But this one, I honestly don't like. I have ideas, but I can't. I don't have a definitive answer, and it like twists at me.
We'll put a pin in it.
I already have it listed for the unrestricted section for the end of the book.
Okay.
Excellent.
Good job.
Join us then. Question 4. What did Hermione grab in her hand at the end of the chapter?
I like to imagine she like dropped her lucky pen or like her quill. Whoa! Can't lose that. That's how she does so well in school. Lucky pen, lucky quill.
I use stuff like that all the time, right? Like it's a quiet time or somebody's talking and like I'll clatter something because I'm just kind of that klutzy. So sure.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything important.
Nope. Fourth wall. Okay. Question 5. Who is the better ally? Actually, it's what is the better ally? So ponder on that phrasing. It's not who, it's what is the better ally? Dementors or giants?
I think I'd rather have Dementors on my team. That just seems like giants seem to offer like a single thing, destruction, like physical power, which is useful. I mean, maybe not as useful as it could be in different historical settings. But in somewhat modern times, it's less of an issue to overcome. For Dementors, there's like no way of fixing that. Just deep down sorrow, depression instantly with no reason for it. Like it's an emotional weapon, right? It's psychological warfare, and that's hard to combat. So if you have to pick one, I think that's. And the fact that it says better it makes it a little tricky on the terminology, but it's the more effective ally, I think, for whatever your means are. I don't know. You kind of have to have nefarious, plans if you're going to use Dementors. You can't really use Dementors for good as far as we've seen. There's no like, the happy Dementor crew. They make you happy instead. I don't think we've seen that.
What would you call those things?
A joy mentor? They mentor you in joy?
Nah.
It's a working title.
Okay. All right.
How about you? Which one do you think is the better ally?
I feel like giants can be reasoned with, one would think, because from what we know of Dementors, they're not really so good with like self-control.
They're a bit loose cannon-y, huh?
Yeah, and at least from what I know of giants, not that we know a lot about giants, but I mean Hagrid's half giant and he's amazing. So if that's all we know about giants is that there's good in there somewhere, or at least the capability of love, the capability of relationship, maybe not long-term relationships because mom left, but in general, there's some type of human emotions in there. And I don't see that in Dementors. And so for me, a better ally, it doesn't mean more effective. It means like thinking of if I'm on, the light side and I have a green lightsaber and you're might be on the red side over there, but I have the higher ground. And I think giants would be better for Dumbledore's side.
I agree with that. Yes, absolutely. Melissa, what was your favorite line?
You've been reading Rita Skeeter, Mr. Fudge.
I like it.
I mean, it just flat out, without saying, you're an idiot, it's like, your source is wrong.
Bad source.
Fiction. Yeah, right? Fact check, man.
Pretty much.
Just because it's written doesn't mean it's true.
My favorite line comes from Dumbledore. "You are blinded," said Dumbledore, his voice rising now, the aura of power around him palpable, his eyes blazing once more. "By the love of the office you hold, Cornelius, you place too much importance, and you always have done, on the so-called purity of blood. You fail to recognize that it matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be. Your Dementor has just destroyed the last remaining member of a pure blood family as old as any, and see what that man chose to make of his life." That's a bit more in your face of, you're an idiot.
That's the grown-up version.
Yeah, and here's evidence. This thing that you very, very clearly care about, and you shouldn't, you mess that up too. You're messing up on both sides.
Right. Like, in general, here are all the things you've gotten wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
I love how our favorite lines are all fudge bashing.
This is pretty easy.
I mean, even the title of the chapter is kind of a fudge bashing, right? Parting of the Ways, like, dude's crazy and he's not listening, so we're going to be done with him.
Mm-hmm.
Good with that, guys? We're good with that. Okay.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite chapter titles. I really like it. I don't know why.
And it's got a good picture.
It feels Tolkien-esque to me, the way it's written. Just the sound of it, the parting of the ways, just feels very much the fellowship, the fellowship of the ring.
And enter.
Out of the fire, or out of the pan and into the fire. It just has that feeling, and so I think that might be playing a part.
It might be.
Who could possibly be the chapter MVP?
I feel like we're on a bit of a streak with this one, possibly. But it has to be Dumbledore.
It has to be Dumbledore.
He has burned up and down and mic drops and all that jazz.
Emotional support to boot.
Yep. Nope. He's the best.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. Honorable mention wise, I'm kind of torn. There's a couple of characters that are also beneficial. I want to give a shout out to Sirius. I think he does a good job of being there for Harry. I'm going to give my honorable mention to Molly Weasley, though. One, for her reaction to Sirius Black was pretty funny. That's a nice little silly thing. But really it comes down to the hug. We talked about that, and there's really nothing else that Harry could have used right there. You can only talk to somebody so much until, and some people just aren't huggers. I get that, but Harry doesn't realize that maybe he is, and Molly just does it and makes him feel like he has a parent for the first time. It's a pretty special moment.
Yep. Nope. I think that sounds good to me. Oh, we are at the end of the last chapter. We are at the end of the beginning of the last chapter. So
which is called the beginning.
That's right. We are at the beginning of the end, or we will be next week. But in the meanwhile, until we see you then, you are going to find us on Twitter at NotNamedPodcast. Please tweet at me, because that'll remind me to get on there. I would love to hear from you. Send me an email at notnamedpodcast@gmail.com. Please go to our website, thepodcastapp.com, where you can find this show and all of our shows in a variety of forms, including YouTube links, and you can listen to all of our shows directly from there. We have a fantastic Support Us page that has really fun stuff. My favorite thing this week is if you click on our Amazon affiliates, if you go to Support Us, click on the link that is our picture, the Must Not Be Named logo. Click on it and then click on the logo again, and it takes you to our Amazon Harry Potter shopping list. It is back to school time, folks. As much as all you parents are excited about it, us teachers are probably not so much, but your kids need supplies. And what better supplies than Harry Potter supplies? So click on the link to our school supply list for Harry Potter and buy yourself some very own Harry Potter school books or Funko Pops. I think there's some notebooks in there, whatever you need for your back to school shopping.
Check us out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast that must not be named, and also the podcast that family of podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to those shows and all the shows at thepodcastthat.com. You can find those links on the website or on each individual YouTube page. Subscribe, like, rate, and leave comments to our show on iTunes. We really love hearing from you and getting feedback. We truly appreciate the 5 stars or whatever you think it should be. It really helps other people find our show as well. You should listen to this show and all of our shows at thepodcastthat.com on Radio Public. Their Android and iOS apps are free to use, and they really do help us find new listeners like you, and it helps support us with very little effort on anyone's part.
Join us next week for the last chapter, chapter number 37.
The beginning. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.